Okay, so we're now going to hear from the patient perspectives of living with a couple of these rarer forms. We're going to begin with Zachary Berger, who's going to talk to us about living with vascular EDS. And then we're going to hear from Megan, who is going to talk to us about living with classical EDS. And then we're going to hear from Chrystal about also living with vascular EDS. Thank you. Zachary.
Hi. My name's Zachary Berger. I'm a rising junior at Brown University. I study biochemistry and molecular biology. I have been in the DEETS lab here at Hopkins this summer doing vascular EDS research. I was diagnosed with vascular EDS when I was 5 years old, and it meant nothing to me at the time. I was very ignorant of the severity of the disease until I was like 10, when my uncle started having complication after complication, mostly gastrointestinal, a lot of bowel perforations. So heard a lot of big medical terms being thrown around with the name of my illness, and I was like putting two and two together, decided to Google, well, I guess at the time it was type 4 EDS, but vascular EDS. And there are some scary statistics online about this disease. It made a lot of sense to the 10-year-old, grandma's gone, aunt is gone at a very young age, the low survivability. And then it explained, why my uncle was so sick, and then why my dad became so sick a few years later. And it took a long time for that fear to settle, but eventually I seemed to forget about it, because from the age of like 11 to when I was like 16, EDS didn't do anything for me besides the broken blood vessels. But it's a big part of my life now. It's my happiest moments of my life and the saddest moments of my life tend to have one thing in common, and that's EDS, from broken blood vessels all of the time in my hands and feet to the EDS research I get to do at Hopkins, which is very exciting. And then getting into Brown, this was the story I wrote in my essay, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And apparently it worked. They found it inspirational or something, whatever. So I guess the main part of my story began about 4 years ago when I was camping with my family. I remember everything being fine, talking with my friends around the fire, setting up my tent at 2 o'clock in the morning because I kept putting it off. Then I went to bed, everything was fine, but I woke up the next morning in so much pain. I have used multiple thesauri, I'm not sure what the plural is, trying to find a word that kind of describes the pain I was in. It was so severe. I couldn't walk, couldn't talk, I could barely think. And what I was thinking was, this was it. This is what it feels like to die. It was so incredibly severe. It was the most terrifying experience of my entire life. And my parents rushed me to the ER, where they found a bowel perforation in my sigmoid colon. And the surgeon operated, saved my life. Very thankful to, oh great, now I forget his name. Well, he's out there. But he gave me a colostomy after fixing the perforation. And on my list of bad things to ever happen to me, that's a close second to the bowel perforation. I don't know if anyone has ever had to deal with living with a colostomy, but it's disgusting, it's uncomfortable. I'm glad I only had it for 6 months. But while I had it, dealing with there was a lot of teasing associated with it. I was a sophomore in high school, and kids are mean. But it would make random noises, during class and the silent time. So that wasn't fun. But it went away. But it was a hard time after being in so much pain, and then realizing the severity of my illness at the time was it put me in a dark place. But I climbed out of that afterwards. Sorry, I lost my place. Throughout the experience, I came to realize that I had taken a lot for granted. I took life for granted. It's not, a guarantee that we're all going to be around here. I hope that we are all going to be around here for a long time. But I'd been presented with a lot of typical challenges in life, the ones that we all face, little stupid things, but nothing that required such great strength to persevere through. And I felt as if I was being tested, and it was quite the test. But I pushed on, and it took everything I had to keep moving forward. But I wanted to prove to myself and I think it was it was really just to myself that nothing was going to control my life except for me. And the experience gave me clarity, too, with what I want to do with my life. I definitely want to go into medicine. That's a for sure thing at this point, unless something random happens and I decide to do something else. Who knows? I mean, things change, but I think I want to go into medicine to help people who have had experiences like mine, people who are suffering. And I would love to be able to give back to other people who have, people who share what I've gone through, what my uncle has gone through, what a lot of my family has gone through. I just want to give people the opportunity to do the things that they want to do. Like, I have been very fortunate to be able to do the things that I want to do for the most part. I know what it's like to be sick, and I just want other people to know, I guess, no, that's not what I want to say. I want to be able to help other people who are sick and find themselves in places they don't want to be. And I also know that it's likely that there will be more complications in the future, but if it's anything like the last one, it'll knock me on my butt, and then I'll get up and I'll keep doing what I want to do. I've been in Baltimore for the past 2 months working in Dr. Hal Dietz's lab studying vascular Ehlers-Danlos, as well as other aortic aneurysm diseases such as Marfan syndrome and Loeys-Dietz syndrome, and I am having the time of my life. I love the research. I love being able to work on something that's so close to my heart, so close, it hits home. Every day I go into the lab and I'm excited, there's a smile on my face, I'm really happy. And when I dove into the research, when I first got here, I would be lying if I said I wasn't drowning at first, but I quickly learned to swim. It was my first time doing lab work, and I think I've learned more in the 2 months working with Caitlin and Hal Dietz, about genetics than I did in my entire intro genetics course at Brown. It's been an incredible learning experience. And I'm very excited to continue working very closely with the lab while I go back to Brown. And I asked if I could come back next summer, and he seemed to want me to come back next summer, so we'll see. And then hopefully, I can continue working with research related to aortic aneurysm disease. I'm also considering, as a medical specialty, like surgery, and I find that I was shadowing Dr. Black here, who's a vascular surgeon at Hopkins, and I find that aortic aneurysm diseases are very interesting. So maybe that's where I'll end up. Who knows? But I'm very humbled to be able to research my own illness alongside such brilliant scientists here at Hopkins, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future. Having EDS has opened up a lot of doors for me, but it's also made me miss out on a lot of things. Sports were out of the question. In college, I can't go play catch and frisbee with my friends because I catch the darn thing once and my hands are swollen. It sucks, but you deal with it. I've had people tell me that I should quit whining. Everybody deals with pain, but well, I think other people deal with more pain than others, and it sucks when you look fine, but you really are. You do have something wrong with you, and it's annoying, but you just kind of deal with it, I guess. And a while back, someone asked me if I wish I had never been born with my disease, and my instinctual answer was obviously yes. But it kind of struck a chord somewhere, and I thought about it for a very long time, and I think the answer to that question is no. It's opened up a lot of doors for me, and I wake up in one of the most amazing places. I love Brown. I loved being here at Hopkins. And that I don't know if that would have happened without what's happened to me in the past. I am surrounded by some of the greatest people I have ever met, and I have created some great friendships, and I'm very happy with my life as it is. And I finally feel that I found a place where I'm supposed to be, and I feel like I'm on the path I was supposed to follow. And I've never been happier in my entire life. Thank you.
My journey, along with many others, has been a difficult one. It took me decades to get diagnosed, which caused a lot of preventable damage that would have been avoided if my doctors had been educated properly. Like many, I started having problems before I was born in the womb. I stopped feeding. My mom's placenta matured prematurely. I cried all night as an infant. I sustained regular injuries since early childhood. It was one thing after another for as long as I can remember, and everyone knew something was wrong. Doctors tried their best, but there wasn't a clear reason my body seemed to be falling apart. I was misdiagnosed with more things than I can count, with seemingly disconnected symptoms. No treatments really helped, and no diagnosis encompassed the wide range of things I was experiencing. After a car accident in my late teens, I started having pain that just would not go away no matter what I did. Fibromyalgia was added to the growing list of diagnoses, but like all the others that came before it, didn't really seem to fit either. But I was determined to get better. My doctors just told me, oh, you have fibromyalgia, you need to exercise more, walk it off. But I told them my hip was dislocating. My doctors just told me, oh, your hip's your most stable joint. There's no way it was dislocating. And I had such trust in the medical community that I believed them, and I continued to walk on it, which caused irreparable damage. Eventually, it dislocated in physical therapy, and the physical therapist assessed it, and indeed it was a hip dislocation. That was a moment of clarity for me, where I learned that I have to trust myself as well as medical doctors and use judgment to see what I should be doing for myself. So I decided to take things into my own hands. I read everything. I took as many science classes as I could, and I eventually ended up with degrees in molecular biology, biochemistry, and bioinformatics. I worked in a genetics lab. I worked at Hopkins. I worked at MedStar doing patient advocacy and research on medical errors. Friends gave me their medical school textbooks, which I read cover to cover, a lot of them. And I stumbled across EDS when researching hypermobility, when my physical therapist mentioned that my arms were a little wonky and my hips were, and all these things. So I talked to my doctor, and she said, oh, patients with EDS are in wheelchairs and have neck braces, and that's not you. So I learned from previous experience, maybe they don't know everything. So I came to this conference. And at that point, I had fallen in love with medicine. Whether I had EDS or not, or whether I had anything or not, I just wanted to help people. But as I sat in seminar after seminar, everything clicked for the first time. I felt like every presenter was talking about me, and I learned so much that the journal articles had left out. It was there that I met Dr. Francomano, booked an appointment, and as soon as I got home, and a year later, I was finally diagnosed. Even after being diagnosed by a leading EDS expert, doctors wouldn't believe me. They told me that EDS isn't a big deal, you're just flexible, there's no way you have that much pain from that, which are the farthest things from the truth, as I'm sure all of you know. Like my grandmother and so many others in my family never had received a diagnosis and suffered unnecessarily. So in 2017, I actually got a whole exome sequencing because they thought there could be something other than EDS wrong. And they found that I have the COL5A2 gene, which is a gene for classical. And now, doctors actually take me a lot more seriously. It's sad that doctors don't believe a clinical diagnosis of hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos, but once you have the genes, they believe you that something is wrong. I am so grateful to the Ehlers-Danlos Society for helping me along the way. And I've devoted my last few years of my career to patient safety and advocacy to help understand these disorders and receive proper treatments. And outside of work, I started a local EDS group and helped administrate several international Facebook groups, and I help with the Inspire page as well. I can't let all my reading and knowledge go to waste. I have to help people, and that helps me as well. Many don't have the resources to get to where I am now, and the society is making those resources available. Every moment that I can walk and speak and think I'm grateful for, because some days these things are difficult or impossible. I used to know what it was like to live carefree, and now I'm concerned with making it through the day some days. Ehlers-Danlos took the life from me that I thought I'd have. I had to adjust, become resilient, lean on my own knowledge and support from others to make it through. I've learned not to take anything for granted, but sometimes find living life to the fullest in the moment hard when I know there can be consequences. But I won't give up fighting for myself and others to get the care that they need and deserve. I wanted to share a couple things that I learned along the way that I hope might help you from my personal experiences and from my experiences with patients. A lot of patients that I've worked with, have just that doctors thought they were crazy, or they thought that their mental problems were causing their physical symptoms, and oftentimes doctors make it seem like it's black or white. And I don't think anybody with EDS has their mental symptoms, causing physical symptoms. But Dr. Pasinki does a really interesting lecture that talks about how sometimes our physical symptoms cause mental symptoms, and there's overlap. So it's important to treat both. It's important to look at every part and treat everything, but don't let doctors tell you you're crazy, because you're not. And if you think there's something wrong with you, pursue it. Always start medicines slow. Of course, talk to your doctor. But I see so many patients. They go to the doctor, they start a full dose of a new medicine, and they get a reaction. And with mast cell disease, it's oftentimes a little too much. So go low and slow and start one thing at a time. Sometimes doctors want to give you 10 medicines at one appointment, and you start one and you don't realize the side effects from this medicine could be this medicine, could be that medicine, could be the time of day you took it, could be a lot of things. So one treatment at a time. Varicose veins and EDS, they're a thing, we know that, but we can get them anywhere, internal and external. And I had something called pelvic congestion syndrome, which is quite common, and it's essentially varicose veins in the belly. But EDS patients can get it without even having kids. A lot of people get it when they have kids. I actually had a lot of POTS symptoms from this. I couldn't walk up the stairs. I couldn't go outside without fainting. And it turns out my aorta was losing blood and collapsing. So I had a very minor surgery for it, and it helped. If you're somebody who has a lot of pelvic pain and you feel like the blood is pooling in your abdomen, it's something to look and see an interventional radiologist for. None of us can sleep. We all know that. And we all have chronic fatigue, and a lot of these things, it helps if we talk to each other and learn from each other, and see what's helped. 6 minutes left? Okay. Sorry, I'm having trouble breathing again, so I'm okay. No. That's my mom. She's very helpful. Sometimes patients tell me they've been diagnosed by several different doctors with different types of EDS. And from what I've been told, you usually can't have several types of EDS unless, a lot of times, doctors will say, oh, you have classical and hypermobile type. But from what I've learned, it's often hypermobile type is the symptoms can be of several different types. All right, I think I've talked too much, and I hope what I shared was helpful. I'm having trouble breathing, so I'm going to get off stage. I'm happy to talk later with anybody who'd like to talk with me for any reason. And my name is Megan Karanfil. I'm on Inspire, and I have a page called The Herd's Nerd, and I'm always happy to help.
Good morning. I gave this speech yesterday, and when I opened, I told everyone that I was supposed to open with a joke, but my husband didn't think the joke was funny, so I didn't want to tell it. So last night I went home and I tried to work on it again. Still didn't think it was funny, so I'll spare you once again. But my EDS journey, I have vascular EDS, and my EDS journey began in 1994 when my mother came home from a seemingly regular work day, but her arms were stuck down like this, and she said it bothered her and she couldn't move. So my father took her to the emergency room, and we were there for hours and hours, my brother and I in the emergency room waiting area, waiting for her, and the doctors rushed in and some left, and they couldn't figure it out. And so being bored to tears, I went over to one of the doctors and I showed him how I could bend my fingers backwards and this neat trick, so I thought. And he asked me, could my mother do the same thing? And I said, of course she can do the same thing. What do you mean, you can't do it? And my dad was the only one in my household who couldn't do it, so we thought he was weird. And then here we go with this doctor who can't do it. What's the problem? So after a lot of research, the doctor went back. He said he thought he recalled something about hearing about that in medical school, and that's how he discovered that she had EDS. In 1997, my brother and I were both tested for EDS, and both came back positive for EDS. We had our own separate life journeys with it. My brother had a bowel perforation, as you did, and lived with a colostomy bag for his entire life. He suffered another bowel perforation at the age of 40, and he passed away from it. Just 10 months short of my brother passing, my mother too suffered a bowel perforation, and it also took her. So now I'm the only one left in my family with EDS and afraid of every day. I'm 39 years old, and I am not looking forward to my 40th birthday as I thought I would be, because the life expectancy is not much more than 40. But when I was 32 years old, I became pregnant, and I went to the world-renowned Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I had specialist after specialist. I went all the time. And in the beginning, they told me that my pregnancy was not a good idea, that I should terminate my pregnancy and continue to live life. And I thought about it, and I thought that is not what I was put here to do. That was not the best choice for me. So I put my faith over my fear and decided to go along with my pregnancy. And at that moment, I decided that I didn't want to talk about the negative part. I wanted to only have a healthy, positive pregnancy. And that is exactly what I did. I followed everything they told me, and upon my delivery, I did suffer a uterine rupture, which landed me in the ICU for 7 days. I was unable to see my daughter for the first 3 days, but I knew that she was okay. They brought me a picture of her in ICU, and she was beautiful, and she's sitting over there, and she's healthy, and she does not have EDS. She was tested, and she does not have it. Thank God for that. But lately, after the passing of my brother and my mother, I found myself falling into a deep depression. You know, I'm the only one left. What am I going to do? How do I live life? How do I be healthy and happy at the same time, knowing what I'm facing? And I used to go for these walks every morning, try to get some exercise, just, you know, nice little low-key walk. And in the month of May, when I found out that it was EDS Awareness Month, I decided that I was going to take that negative depression energy and turn it into something positive. And I began to research, and I went online, and I used my social media platform to post educational facts, positive facts, awareness, and I put it out there to all of my family, all of my friends. I educated myself, I educated my family, I educated even family doctors, and I decided that that was going to be my way of turning things around. That was going to be my self-help, as well as helping other people who were aware of it, who wanted to know about it, who didn't want to know about it. I wanted them to know about it, because just as big as cancer research is, EDS research should be just as big. And I told my husband one day, I said, you know, they talk about cancer all the time, and I'm not downing it, but I think it's such a wonderful thing how so many people put money into it and how they're looking for a cure. But if we don't get out there and educate the world as we're doing here, we'll never be able to find a cure, because they're not going to look for one if they don't know about the issue and how many people suffer from EDS every day. And it's brilliant that they had the rally yesterday. I wasn't there, but I watched it online and I posted it, and I want everyone to see, because behind closed doors, it's great, but when we open up the doors and allow the world to see what we are suffering from, but to know that we still have a chance and that we're still looking for a cure, it's not the end-all, be-all. That to me is just a very positive thing, and it's the thing that keeps us going. And my husband always says that there's a blessing and a curse. And as you mentioned in your speech about being born with EDS and whether or not you would switch your life around without it, the curse may seem like it's EDS, but the blessing is actually EDS. We're paying it forward. We are here today to learn, to educate, and pay it forward for the next generation to come behind us. We're paying it forward in the cure that's going to come from all of the education. And yes, the doctors may not believe us now, but if we continue to be zebra strong and not allow that to hinder us from trying to find the best way to get it out there, the doctors are just humans behind some knowledge that they learned from a book. But the best knowledge comes from us, those of us that are living with it every day, those of us that can share our experience. Forget what the books say. We can write our own book of our own history, of our own knowledge, of our own experience, and that positive energy gives hope to someone else. And so I'm saying all of this to say to you all, on your bad days, make those your good days. Make those days the days that you know that you're making a difference. Write it down, journal it. Leave it somewhere that when we're not here, on our last days, someone can say we made a difference. Someone can share that information that no book could ever describe. So I commend both of you for your stories and sharing it. And I ask you all to continue to go out there and wear your shirts proudly. Put it on your Facebook page. Inundate people with the knowledge. Inundate your doctor with it. They may say no, but you say but. You say yes. You say I know better than what the book says. It's up to us to save us, and it's up to us to continue to be the cure and to find the cure. I hope that this helps somebody, and I hope that you know that you are zebra strong every day that you live on. And even when we're gone, for my mother and my brother, I continue to be zebra strong for them. Thank you so much.